Throughout Demon Slayer history, Yoriichi Tsugikuni stood as the most powerful Demon Slayer to ever live, coming closer than anyone to killing Muzan and creating breathing styles. But what if Yoriichi didn't just disappear in the Sengoku era? In today's video, we'll explore what would happen if Yoriichi Tsugikuni was reborn in the Taisho period, arriving just in time to meet Tanjiro Kamado. Now first up, let's establish the timeline for this scenario, because Yoriichi's rebirth needs to happen at just the right moment. In our timeline, Yoriichi is reborn with all his memories about 10 years before Tanjiro, giving him enough time to grow up, join the Corps, and eventually become the new Sun Hashira. Just like in his first life, Yoriichi is born with the Demon Slayer mark on his forehead, the transparent world ability, and the selfless state that makes him impossible for demons to detect. But unlike his previous life, Yoriichi doesn't build any relationships. He knows that Demon Slayers are destined for that kind of life. Yoriichi quickly rises through the ranks, mastering sun breathing once again, and proving himself as the strongest Demon Slayer of the current generation. By the time Tanjiro's family is attacked by Muzan, Yoriichi has already been serving as the Sun Hashira for several years, and his incredible strength is known throughout the Corps. Now let's return to Tanjiro's story, which starts out in exactly the same manner. Muzan still attacks the Kamado household and turns Nezuko into a demon, with Tanjiro surviving at the scene after the Demon King leaves. As Tanjiro struggles to restrain Nezuko, Giyu Tomiyoko reaches the forest outside the house and splits them up. He sees potential in the boy who protected his demon sister instead of abandoning her, and just like in the original timeline, Giyu sends Tanjiro to train with Urokodaki. Now, for Tanjiro to meet Yoriichi, he needs to awaken sun breathing using the Hinokami Kagura. This means that Tanjiro won't cross paths with the Sun Hashira for all of the early arcs, meaning that these proceed just like in the original timeline. Okay, so Tanjiro passes the final selection, starts taking missions, defeats demons like Kyogai, Susumaru, and Yahaba, while gradually growing stronger as a demon slayer. The key moment in our story is Tanjiro's encounter with Rui on Mount Naragumo, because this was the moment when he realized that the Hinokami Kagura could be used as a breathing style. But that's not the only thing special about this arc. The Hashira meeting was a direct consequence of Shinobu seeing Tanjiro working alongside a demon, requiring the most powerful members of the Corps to come together to make a decision. The battle plays out the same way in this timeline, but when the Hashira arrive, it's Yoriichi who accompanies Giyu instead of Shinobu. Because he has access to the transparent world, Yoriichi manages to track down the Lower Moon 5's main body much faster, and arrives just in time to witness Tanjiro's desperate attempt to use the Hinokami Kagura against Rui's threads. Now, this moment is shocking for Yoriichi, as he sees a reflection of his old friend Sumiyoshi Kamado. But it's not only that. All this time, he thought that sun breathing had died out 500 years ago, but here it was, being used even in the Taisho era. Now, Tanjiro still gets taken to the Hashira meeting to resolve the Nezuko situation, but afterwards, Yoriichi approaches Tanjiro and asks him about the earrings he wears and the dance his father taught him. When Tanjiro explains that the Hinokami Kagura has been passed down through the Kamado family for generations, Yoriichi realizes that his legacy survived after all. But that's not all, because when Yoriichi sees that Tanjiro has a black Nichirin blade as well, he knows for certain that this boy is the destined successor of sun breathing. The Sun Hashira reveals the truth to Tanjiro about sun breathing, explaining that he is the only other living person who can perform the original and most powerful breathing style. But here's where the plot thickens, because the Demon Slayer Corps leadership has mixed feelings about Yoriichi training Tanjiro directly. The likes of Sanemi and Obanai are skeptical. The Demon Slayers were already making an exception for him to travel with Nezuko, but now they need to recognize him as some sort of chosen one as well. Despite the controversy, Kagaya Ubuyashiki gives his blessing for Tanjiro to train with Yoriichi, seeing this as a potential turning point in the war against Muzan. So, how do the main arcs of the Demon Slayer story change with Yoriichi as Tanjiro's mentor? Well, for starters, Tanjiro's growth accelerates dramatically once he begins training directly under the Sun Hashira. Yoriichi teaches Tanjiro not just the forms of sun breathing, but also helps him access the transparent world, allowing him to see his opponent's movements before they happen. But if Tanjiro is training with Yoriichi, what happens to Inosuke and Zenitsu? Chances are these two won't get the opportunity to tag along with Tanjiro, so they'll continue training at the Butterfly Mansion. However, without Tanjiro to motivate them, or rather Nezuko in Zenitsu's case, the two of them will definitely be weaker than in the original timeline. But the bigger question is what happens on the Muggan Train, because one of the main reasons Tanjiro was even assigned to this mission was to learn more about the Hinokami Kagura through Rengoku. Chances are the three of them will still get assigned to the mission as a learning experience, but by the time the Muggan Train mission comes around, Tanjiro is far stronger than he was in canon. Additionally, when the mission to investigate the Muggan Train is assigned, both Yoriichi and Rengoku are sent together, as the Corps suspects this might require multiple Hashira-level fighters. Tanjiro, Zenitsu, and Inosuke join them on this mission, and when Enmu's Blood Demon arc traps everyone in dreams, things initially seem hopeless. But just like in the original story, Tanjiro quickly realizes that he's in a dream and manages to wake everyone else so they can join the fight. With both the Sun Hashira and Flame Hashira working together, defeating Enmu becomes far less difficult, and they manage to save all the passengers without anyone dying. But things really heat up when Akaza appears after Enmu's defeat, as the Upper Moon 3 makes a critical miscalculation. In the original timeline, Akaza offered Rengoku a chance to become a demon, but this time he's facing both Rengoku and Yoriichi simultaneously. The moment Akaza senses Yoriichi's presence, every instinct in his demon body screams at him to run, even though he's never met the Sun Hashira before. This is because Muzan's cells carry the memory of his terror from fighting the original Yoriichi centuries ago, and that fear has been passed down to all of his demons. Akaza attempts to fight the two Hashira, but Yoriichi outclasses him in every way. For the first time in 400 years, an Upper Moon demon experiences the true horror of sun breathing. The battle is completely one-sided, as Rengoku has no trouble following Yoriichi's lead, and he survives the encounter. This fundamentally changes our story, as we don't have to wait until the Entertainment District arc for the Demon Slayers to realize they can defeat Upper Moons. But more importantly, Muzan sees Akaza's death through his eyes, and the Demon King realizes that Yoriichi Tsugikuni has returned. This sends Muzan into a panic, because Yoriichi in his prime could even defeat the Demon King in single combat. He can't afford to wait any longer, while Yoriichi trains the next generation of Demon Slayers, and he needs to strike while the rest of them are incapable of defeating Upper Moons. Kaguya realizes that the Upper Moon 3's death will likely result in Muzan making a move, so he initiates the Hashira training arc much earlier as a countermeasure. But still, Muzan transports the Demon Slayers into the Infinity Castle before they can complete their preparations. Shinobu's poison is much weaker, and more importantly, there are stronger Upper Moons like Hantengu and Gyoko to deal with. Inside the Infinity Castle, the Demon Slayers are separated just like in the original timeline. Shinobu still faces Doma according to her plan, but this time she doesn't need to sacrifice herself to poison the Upper Moon, as Gyomei arrives alongside Kanao and Inosuke. Meanwhile, Muichiro takes on Gyoko just like he did in the original Swordsmith Village arc, while Tanjiro and Giyu face off against Hantengu. But the real game changer is the fight against Kokushibo, as Sanemi, Genya, and Zenitsu initially face off against the Upper Moon 1. Now, this battle goes much worse than the others until Yoriichi finally appears to confront Kokushibo, coming face to face with his brother from his previous life. Kokushibo recognizes his brother immediately, and the emotion that floods through him is overwhelming, because he thought he would never see Yoriichi again. Unlike their fight in the Sengoku era, this time Yoriichi is not an 80-year-old man standing on the edge of death, but a warrior in his prime. Yoriichi's skill with sun breathing proves superior to Kokushibo's moon breathing, and he cuts through the Upper Moon 1's regeneration until he finally crumbles to dust. With the Upper Moons falling one after another, the Demon Slayers begin converging on Muzan's location. This battle is a deadly confrontation for the Demon King, because Yoriichi remembers exactly how he nearly killed Muzan in his previous life, and also has the power to execute it again. But just in case Muzan tries the same trick he did in their first encounter, Yoriichi has Tanjiro by his side, ready to cover any flaws in his technique. However, Muzan is stronger than he was 5 centuries ago, and the battle is still brutal, with several Hashira falling while protecting their comrades. With Yoriichi leading the charge, the outcome was never truly in doubt, however. As the sun begins to rise over the battlefield, Muzan makes one final desperate attempt to escape, but Yoriichi corners him with the 13th form of sun breathing. The Demon King's body begins to disintegrate in the sunlight, and for the second time in his life, Muzan Kibutsuji experiences true fear as he realizes he cannot win. When the battle ends and the sun rises fully, the remaining Demon Slayers stand victorious, having finally achieved what seemed impossible for so long. So what do you think of this timeline? Is having Yoriichi reborn in the Taisho era too overpowered? As always, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below.